Good afternoon, families. I'm Adrienne Gilliard from the Early Learning Coalition's Inclusion Team, bringing you the family edition of Behavior Bites Tidbits. Our tidbit topic for today is making good choices and red and green thought bubbles. So when we think about our children that are 2, 3, 4, even 5 years old, they are still in that very egotistical stage of development, which means that they still believe that the world revolves around them. And they're not aware that their behaviors can directly impact others that are around them. They're not aware of this, so it's important for us to teach them. You know, when we drop our children off at school in the mornings and we say things like, make sure you're good today, or your teacher will call me if you're bad today. While we're well-meaning in those little statements and phrases that we make as we drop off in the morning, children don't understand the concepts of what's good and what's bad. They can't have, they have no real understanding of good and bad choices that they're making. So this is where it's important for us to teach them those red and green choices. And the perfect way to teach such an abstract concept to children is to pair it with visuals. And so we have a visual here of what red and green choices look like. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this beautiful chart. So the red choices are our choices that we consider. We don't want to use the terms good and bad, but the red choices are those choices that are the more challenging or maladaptive behaviors. These are things that you see around the house, such as they're hitting or fighting, using unkind words, not taking turns, breaking things, not cleaning up their toys that they've left on the floor. Those are what those red choices are. The green choices are the things that you want to see them do around the house, cleaning up their toys, following directions. When you tell them to go to bed, to take a bath and get ready for bed, they're doing that. Using gentle hands, nice words, sharing, and trying their best in all things that they do. These are some of the green choices that you want to see. Now, I want you to keep in mind that if you decide to create a chart like this and put a visual with it, it's important to think about the age group of your child. If your child is younger, you don't want to have too many red choices. And just the same, you don't want to have too many green choices, because then it kind of gets lost in translation and it gets diluted. It's too much. It's too much for them to really comprehend and understand. So minimize your red and green choices based on to some of the maladaptive or challenging behaviors that you see at home. And some of the green choices are expected behaviors that you'd like to see. So this is just what some of those red and green choices look like. And like I said, they can be whatever it is that's important to your household. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. So like I said, those green choices can be cleaning up toys, eating their dinner, following directions, getting ready for bed. The challenging behaviors, kicking, screaming, biting, hitting. It gives a less abstract view of what it is you expect of them. And it gives the visual representation of what's going to make mommy and daddy happy and what might make them not so happy. And when we talk about those choices and you implement this system, only use the terms red and green instead of good and bad, because children also begin to internalize being good, and they also internalize being bad. And we don't ever want to pour into our children that they're being bad or something that they're doing is not enough. We don't want to pour those things into our children. So using the terms red and green choices is more non-judgmental. It is what it is. They've made a red choice or they've made a green choice. For example, oh, you made a green choice today. You cleaned up all of your toys without me even asking you to do it. Or you made a red choice by screaming no and kicking your toys to the floor when I asked you to clean up. Let's think about what green choices you can make next time instead. So do you see how that language is different? It's less accusatory, but it gives an idea of what they did that was challenging. And it gives them time to think about, okay, if I want to do something better, if I want to do it better next time, let me think about some of the green choices that we already have in place. What can I do? So it helps them with that thinking. And after you've used red and green choices in this concept for a while, your children will already know what a red choice is. They'll already know what a green choice is without you even having to reiterate those things all the time. And you'll see how it begins to work for those maladaptive and challenging behaviors. And this system will also work really, really well if you pair it with another concept called red and green thought bubbles. And I'm going to share my screen again so that you can see what the red and green thought bubbles look like and how we use those. So you can do it like this with a popsicle stick, but because you're a parent, you're on the go, you have things to do. A more practical idea of just cutting out a red bubble and a green bubble and putting them together is to put it on a little bungee cord and put it on your wrist. That way, if you are driving in your car and your little one is in the back seat and they're screaming and yelling, and this is an inappropriate behavior because number one, it's unsafe because it takes your concentration off what you're doing. You can take the little bungee of the red and green thought bubble that is on your wrist and you can hold it up. You can hold it up on the red side and your child will see, okay, so my behaviors at this point is not making mommy so happy. What can I do? They do a set of checks and balances on themselves and say, well, what can I do to make mommy's thought bubble turn green? And so then they can stop, they can calm their bodies down, they can calm themselves down, and they will stop the yelling and screaming so that the thought bubble will then turn green. You can turn it to the green side. And pretty much what you're doing when you hold up that thought bubble, you're not directly addressing that behavior. You're ignoring that challenging behavior in a sense. You're not ignoring the child, but you're ignoring that behavior by not even saying anything about it. You're just holding up that bubble. They already know what that thought bubble means when you're holding it up on the red side. And children are going to want to see you hold up the green thought bubble to let them know that I'm making mommy happy. I'm making a great choice. These thought bubbles can also be used if you're in the grocery store and you have a child that is throwing a temper tantrum because they want the sugar-coated Puffs cereal and they're laying in the middle of the floor kicking and screaming. You can do the same thing. You don't have to, grab them and pick them up and say stop. And no, you can still take that red thought bubble and you can hold it up. I will say that it definitely takes practice. It's going to take practice on your part not to react in the way that you normally react and saying that they're acting bad. But remind them of those red and green choices. Let's stop sharing. So we can go into the red and green thought bubbles a little bit deeper next week when we talk, but I just wanted to share that with you today. So making good choices and red and green thought bubbles. Also, it's good to read books about any of the behaviors that you see with your children doing. And so some really good books that you can read to your child that reinforces making appropriate choices are What Should Danny Do by Adair and Gannett Levy. And it goes through, it's a book that gives choices. It shows the children what the outcomes are of either choice that they make. It's a wonderful book. Another book that you can use is What If Everybody Did That by Colleen M. Madden. If you are still experiencing challenging behaviors with your children at home, you can always reach out to Debbie Kay at our warm line, and the phone number is 954-295-0672. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you back here next week. Have a wonderful day.